Good morning, everybody. Sorry for that slight delay. As always, just want to welcome everybody to the January 25th, 2024 Board of Selectmen meeting. And as always, we will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 11, 2023?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you. And then is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of January 11th, 2023?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good morning, and we'll get going right away. I don't think we have too long of a meeting today. We have another executive session, so we'll try and make these very short. Just want to recap of a couple things. We did have a successful first ever Martin Luther King Day event here in Greenwich, sponsored by the town of Greenwich. And again, special thanks to Reverend Nins, who is recuperating, but showed up and did a great job, as well as our friend Ruby Durant and the kids from Old Greenwich School. Christ Church had a nice celebration this weekend, 275 years. That's older than the country. That's pretty amazing, and they continue to grow and do a great job in our community. So that was a fun event for everybody. The past few weeks, and before that several months, I've been meeting with residents and groups and department heads to go over the budget and to get a feel for it. And that survey that I spoke about the other night at the budget really was timely, and it showed that just what we've been working on. Residents overwhelmingly said that those are the things they care about: open space, trails, public safety, pedestrian safety, condition of school buildings, infrastructure, congestion, zoning, right? These things that we've been working on for several years, and I was glad to see that. But also told us, that you have to keep your eye on the ball and foot in the pedal. And, while it was 85% approval, the company, the national company that we heard from, said that's very rare to see those numbers. Still not perfect, right? We want to be a little bit higher than that. So we still have some homework to do, and we're going to keep working at it. So again, thanks to everybody that responded to that, and to all of our volunteers and professional staff that got us to where we are. And just again, to recoup the presentation the other night, had to correct one of the articles in the paper, got it mixed up. We were at guidelines. The operational department guidelines were met. One of the articles got a little mixed up and said we had not done that. And also to point out that some of the money in there that we have to appropriate is going to be refunded through grants, but you have to appropriate the money. You have to show it. So sometimes you look at the headlines and it looks like, what's the guy doing? He's spending like a drunken sailor. He's going crazy. It was a little sensational, headline, but it will still have I think, the lowest mill rate in the state, and we'll be getting some things done. So God bless you. We'll be working with the BET, answering those questions next week. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of them, and I look forward to that. The January 29th, we're going to be convening first ever task force on anti-Semitism and hate. This is an idea that came to me from some residents, and it made sense to stay on top of it. Our town really doesn't see some of the incidents you see around the country, but it's just like we did with the police department a few years ago. We got ahead of the game with the cameras, right? To not only to give some type of confidence to the public, but also to protect our police officers who may get wrongly accused, and that's worked out. We convened a community board that looks at, goes over things with the police. So there's not only, if there's ever an incident, there's always another review. And again, we hadn't had any incidents, but we wanted to make sure we stay ahead of it. So look forward to that, and to the residents who will be serving on that. I want to thank them. Tonight is the Riverside Association, and then next week we're back in OG for the Old Greenwich Association. We were there for the Friends of Binney Park last week. We heard a nice presentation from Helen Delago about the history of Mini Park. So tonight's 7 o'clock or 6:30.
It begins at 6 for a social hour, and then I believe it begins at 6:30.
I knew that. I was just testing you.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. And then the 30th, I think, yes, the 30th, I'll be presenting the budget, as I mentioned, at 9 a.m. And then later that day, we're going to be going to the Senior Center to do a ribbon cutting there for the new cafe. Exciting. And lastly, I want to thank my friend John Wetmore, who will be retiring. He served many years here as not only to the chief assistant to John Margonot, former first selectman, but as the former town attorney, and then lately has been the land use attorney here, the town attorney specializing in land use. John's a great guy. He will be staying on part-time, helping us, so that's great. But we want to thank John for his many, many years of service. With that, I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Thanks, Fred. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, everyone. Just some updates, and yes, Fred, I was going to also mention the ribbon cutting at the Senior Center, which is now being renamed the Wallace Center due to the donation that we received from Mrs. Wallace. One of the things that will also be unveiled is a new website specifically for seniors, all the programs that the town of Greenwich offers, all the programs that our partners offer seniors in town. So it's really exciting to launch that and help people, and not only the seniors, but their caregivers have access to timely information and resources as we age in place. And, you know, I always say my favorite word, stay in Greenwich. As part of the Affordable Housing Trust Board, we had a really great meeting yesterday with somebody from the state who just really crawled through what 830G means as we consider making loans to developers to develop properties in town that are affordable, but also, you know, meet what we expect as a town and planning and zoning in terms of the types of structures going up. And my favorite line was, did you read the 830G legislation? And if people said yes, he said, read it again. He's read it 100 times, and every time he reads it, he learns something else. So I encourage everybody, because it's a hot topic. It'll be hot in November. Local zoning, you know, control of, you know, density in town. You know, our residents value open space. We want to make sure that, you know, we have affordable opportunities for everyone in our community. It's just really understanding all the ins and outs, because I think people use language that not intentionally misleading, but, you know, just sort of gets us in paths that is not civil and not creating collaboration. Lastly, as part of the Central Middle School Building Committee, we had a very successful community forum last Wednesday, focused on security for students while the building is being built. So we had a nice panel there, and also you know, had public input. One of the things that we're struggling with as a building committee is what is our remit, and it's to build a new school versus other sort of long-standing concerns that residents might have in that particular community. So we're just really trying, you know, and I'll mention one, you know, traffic speeding on Orchard, which isn't specific to, you know, the school building committee or the fact that we're building a new school, but as these other sort of ancillary concerns come up, how do we get them to the right places? So that's something that, you know, we're grappling with as the building committee. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning, Janet.
Good morning. Our last meeting was quite packed, and I said I was going to defer the report from the Old Greenwich School Building Committee. So as promised, here is the update. The OGS Building Committee is in the final stages of completing the design development process. Drawings have been completed, and the cost estimate is being updated, expected to be ready by the end of February. After that, the project will go back to the BET for construction funds. If the BET and RTM approve construction funds, the building committee will be in a position to submit its school construction grant application for the state's June 30th deadline. This will mean a summer 2025 start to construction. The building committee expects to have construction documents completed by this summer, but we have to wait for state approval to go out to bid. The building committee is also hoping to go back to P&Z this spring with its final site plan application. The Architectural Review Committee gave its approval last week. The team is working on several other items that P&Z asked for when it approved the project's municipal improvement in October. As you know, the RTM gave its overwhelming approval in December when it considered the MI for the OGS renovation. The building committee has been appreciative of the strong support for the project across town, including from the Board of Selectmen. They've been spending a lot of time on safety planning since this will be a phased, occupied renovation, and plan to continue to share more details in the months ahead. Next week, our chairman will brief the Old Greenwich Association at its annual meeting, so we encourage those who are interested in learning more to attend. In addition, our meetings are always open to the public and are a great way to see this great building committee and its work in action. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I want to thank both Lauren and Janet for their work on both of the committees and updating us and all the time you put there. And so thank you. Okay, we have 3 items under old business. The first one is a presentation and discussion of the proposed DPW fee schedule. And Amy Siebert, our commissioner, is here.
Morning, Amy Siebert, Commissioner of Public Works. So here yeah, sorry, here we go again. Yeah, Amy Siebert, Commissioner of Public Works, here with your second read for the tipping fee proposal. We have not received any questions since the last read, and the suggestion, just for a little refresher, is to raise that tipping fee to the commercial tipping fee to $119 a ton, and the suggestion is to do it with the fiscal year. To let it be the 1st of July, gives plenty of time to provide advance notice to everyone that will be subject to it, get it out there and move it forward. So subject to any questions that you have?
Shockingly, thank you so much for that. Shockingly, I have not heard that much negative. One hauler has reached out, not necessarily against it, was concerned about, as you know, about the other fee. So I have to again repeat it, just to be fair and transparent. His concern and others' concerns were that when people have haulers, they're paying for it to discard their via weight, discard their municipal solid waste and recycling. But the RTM placed a $25 fee, which is basically for nothing. So the people who are taking it down themselves, God bless you, are getting it basically for nothing. So he had asked that at some point the RTM revisit that, and I think he had suggested a $75 fee, which is still pretty cheap. And that's up to the RTM, but certainly I just wanted to get that out there. That was the only feedback. As far as the 112 to 119 tipping fee, we're still in line with other towns, and we haven't done it in a while. And certainly costs are increasing. And I appreciate all the work that you and the staff and everybody, the team down at Holly Hill has done there. So thank you for operating what is a really challenging setup down there.
It's a fun place. We have a great team down there. We have a great team of volunteers helping us. We'll put the pitch out there that you guys help support, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle, please. Everyone, all over town, please. So
Yes.
whatever we can do about that would be great. All right, thank
So
you.
Fred, that's interesting feedback. It would be interesting, and I don't even know if it would be worth doing it. There's people who pay the $25 and don't pay a hauler, but then there's people like myself who pay the hauler and the $25. So
That's right.
it would just be interesting how many people are non-haulers versus haulers and permits.
Yeah, we don't really have a great way to determine that,
Yeah.
but what we do determine is we do determine traffic volumes down there. Again, not going to be perfect, but we capture numbers for total volume through Holly Hill, numbers coming off the hill, as it were, there with recycling, book swap, and the MSW drop. And the numbers are just a steady, substantial drumbeat through there. I mean, we used to be about 1,000 vehicles a day overall. I think we're maybe today a little less. We're due for a little update of that, but we can't determine who's who. Some people take just their recycling, down there, or they still have, as you said, they have a hauler, or they're there for the swap, or what have you. But overall, if everyone would reduce, reuse, and recycle, it would still be a really positive thing for the budget.
Aren't there 6 Rs? I sat on a panel with Julie last week. I forgot to mention that for the 8th graders at Western Middle School, their capstone project. So the first one was refuse, right?
There's that too.
Refuse or refuse? Clarify.
Well, all right,
yeah.
thank you.
No, thank you. Okay. Seeing that we haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything?
Well, I was just going to, a couple comments. One is that what Amy just said speaks to maybe dusting off the Holly Hill master plan and updating it. And not to put pressure on anyone in the audience, but I see Julie Deschamps from Waste Free Greenwich. Did you want to comment? Okay.
Good morning.
Thanks. I'm Julie Deschamps, founder and chair of Waste Free Greenwich and a member of the Sustainability Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about a host of issues before you today that not only affect our budget, but also public health and the environment. First, I'd like to reiterate my comments from last week regarding the proposed increase in tipping fees. Our community cannot continue on this course raising tipping fees every few years. The real solution is waste reduction, and this is where we need to focus our efforts in a big way. We need to set goals to prevent, recycle, and divert waste, and implement a plan to reach those milestones. Our priorities should include an educational campaign to promote and encourage source reduction first and foremost, scaling up food scrap and textile recycling programs, which currently divert only a minute fraction of the waste generated. By diverting just these 2 materials to reuse and recycling, the town could eliminate 28% or 22.4 million pounds annually from the waste stream, the equivalent of $1.3 million in tipping fees. Investing in a recycling coordinator for the town and schools, a specialized position focused solely on waste management that many other peer towns like Middletown and West Hartford have prioritized. Improving enforcement by increasing headcount at Holly Hill and making haulers more accountable. Funding educational outreach and supporting school programs. And last but certainly not least, finally renovating Holly Hill Transfer Station. Allotting this in the first Selectmen's budget to update the master plan, which is a key step in getting the facility we need to improve safety, expand services, and enhance accessibility. I hope you will pursue federal IRA funding to this end. We look forward to working with Commissioner Siebert and Public Works staff on these efforts to waste less and save money, and urge the Board of Selectmen to shift your focus to support and prioritize waste reduction instead of raising tipping fees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. Yeah, so as somebody who spent his life in recycling, had a business started, was one of the people who helped start Greenwich Recycling, wrote laws on it in Hartford, and have volunteered for close to 35 years at recycling. I couldn't agree with you more about reducing. That's the key to everything. Holly Hill has been talked about since the 80s, being redone. It needs to get done. And I was happy to see, she's not here today, but one BET member who was speaking last week started to hint that she may support it, then realized what she was saying. But certainly even that person was being thoughtful and knows that has to be, it's hard to, as you, Commissioner Siebert said, it's the way it's set up down there, it's hard to run that down there. The flow is not great. People sneak in and out of there. You can take municipal solid waste with you when you go up, take a right to the recycling. There's nobody there to check you because you could bypass the scale. Tony and everybody's on the scale there. They're dealing with people on the scale. They can't, there's not another set of eyes there. So ideally, we wouldn't even need extra personnel there if that was actually redone. And it's decades overdue. We continue to look at funding. Commissioners Mark Boughton came down from the state. At first said there was money available. That seems to, he's backed off a little bit on that now, but we're going to continue to pursue that. That's one of the reasons why I put in the budget an extra person to oversee sustainability, coastal resiliency, and energy management, to look for grants to help us and tie it all in together. So I think while we have to raise these fees now, I think because for the reasons that Commissioner Siebert said, ultimately, that's not going to fix the problem. The problem is going to be fixed by what you stated. So as far as an educational campaign, the Board of Selectmen and myself are here to help any way we can promote it. I know we started the food scraps and the textiles, but we could do better, right? It's a great start, but we want to do more there and divert more of that. And as you said, there's so much more savings there. And there's a lot of people willing to roll up their sleeves here, like yourself and others. So I'm excited and optimistic, but we have a lot of advocacy to do ahead of us. So we'll have to do that together in a really coordinated effort. So thank you very much.
So I just have a procedural question before we vote. We're going to vote on this today. Is when would the tipping fee increase take effect?
Fiscal year, July 1st.
Okay. Okay.
So it gives the haulers a little bit of time, bless you, a little bit of time. I mean, I don't think they're happy about it, but they understand. Again, normally my phone, they all have my cell number. They would be calling me and stopping to see me. But I think they kind of expected it. Okay, so seeing no other.
Lauren Rabin, I motion that we approve the rate increase for fiscal year 2024 for the municipal solid waste tipping fee.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. And again, let's circle back on that and see how we can, coordinate not only our advocacy, but also our educational efforts. Thank you. Okay, next up is a request for corrections to the town speed limit ordinance, and Deputy Commissioner Jim Michaels here. Good to see you again, Jim.
Hello. So we basically did some housekeeping on these speed limits and wanted to make sure everything matched throughout all the ordinances. So that's where this was. We haven't heard anything in the past 2 weeks, so hopefully we're good to go here. And
I have not heard anything, and I know it was just a second read because we normally do it and it wasn't time sensitive, but I think we're good to go.
What about that piece of feedback, the one little section where I stood corrected that is 40 miles an hour on, I think it was North Street?
So my understanding is that section, we're not doing any correction on that section. So I don't know the exact question that came up, but everything we have confirmed is correct. I know there was some question about, should we look at that as the proper speed limit? And, we can look at it. That is a pretty busy road. It does pass traffic it's one of our main arterials between the downtown area, and there's certain portions of it that are different. As you get closer to town, it gets slower and so forth, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I haven't heard anything, so. Okay. So we'll entertain a motion.
Lauren Rabin, I motion that we approve the request for corrections to the town speed limit ordinance.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thank you, and thanks, Jim. Okay, last item on the, under new business is request to approve the calendar of the 2024 flag raising events. And Laura McGeechee is here to answer any questions and present that. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. Yes, this is the second read. I know that there was some discussion because there was a resident, David Wald, who suggested some additional flags. And so, again, that isn't on the original proposed list. So,
Right, so we're just going to vote on the original proposed list. The document that he submitted here, I'm not ready to vote on this yet because we haven't really had that much feedback. There's a lot of these. Some I think are great, some I have some questions about, and we haven't had a special meeting to discuss. So I think it's a little too early to vote on that one, but certainly we want to get this other one passed, and then we could have that discussion on some of the proposals, proposed dates that Mr. Wold has submitted.
Okay.
So I haven't heard anything. People, I think, whatever I've heard prior to this 2-week period, it was very good. People were happy that we are getting these in there. And again, I think it's just a formality. The only reason why, again, we're doing this once a year, just a quick look at it, to make sure that something hasn't changed. And I gave the example of 2 flags whose meaning have changed. And, you know, I was flying one of them, and it was for the police, and the police took me aside and said, it doesn't mean that right now. And they understood, because it was brought to their attention too. So we just want to make sure. I think these will be fine for a long time, but we want to just make sure. But we're happy to vote on these today.
Right. And again, it's smart to have these voted on by the board to remain as government speech. That is the most important for these flag raising.
Yeah.
We will actually have another request at the next meeting for another flag, so the ball is rolling.
Yes, we may be getting one a month, so that's okay. And that's the whole point of it, is to have a discussion. And, you know, we're not going to approve every one of them, but some of them we will, some will be good ideas, but we want it out there in the public domain, so thank you. All righty.
Can I just
Absolutely.
say thank you for all the work that you put into this.
Yes.
I'm looking at the schedule, and I look forward to every single one of these flag raisings. They're wonderful. If the calendar looks light, I just want to point out to our community, these are just flag raisings. We still have proclamations all the time, and I'll just put in a plug for one of my favorites is the Earth Day proclamation, which will be coming up in April. Yes.
April 20th, right?
April
Well-
22nd is
Well,
our
22nd, yes.
that's the actual Earth Day, and I sent an email asking if this is a good date for you, but April 6th is actually the Waste Free Greenwich's Rethink Waste Fair at Christchurch, and that's where we had our Earth Day proclamation last year. So we're hoping to reprise that. I hope that works with your calendars, because of course we would want, you know, all 3 of us to be there, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think the first one, it was stuck in my head, was 1970, I think, was the first Earth Day.
Yes.
I wasn't born. I just remember reading about it. But anyway, yeah, so I think this is fine. And, you know, we just want to make sure that these are on the books so people will know that these dates are there. And then we'll discuss the other proposal, the one this week, and then next month we'll have another one too.
Okay, Lauren Rabin, I motion that we approve the request to approve the current presented calendar of 2024 flag raising events to be considered as government protected speech.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thanks, and thanks again, Laura. So you did a lot of work on this. Thank you. Okay. Now, as far as Mr. Wold's proposal, I don't know if we take it up here, Ken, or should we take it up in public comment as far as?
I believe that's the will of the board. I mean, we can entertain a motion right now. If we want to discuss it now, we can, or we can discuss it at a later meeting, however you prefer.
I think we could at least, it doesn't have to be a long discussion, but he's here today, and I think we owe that to him to hear our thoughts on this, however brief they may be. But certainly, yeah, do we need to have a motion for?
No, I think
We could just discuss.
include this,
Yeah.
please correct me if I'm wrong, we can include as part of the.
Part of discussion.
item on the flag.
Oh, yes, thank you. So for the public who hasn't seen the list, there was quite a few that he submitted.
That was included in the public submission
It was,
this week,
okay,
so-
good. And, you know, certainly, you know, coming from a family that had people serving in these branches, obviously I'm going to be for them. But there's some questions like, you know, Flag Day, for one, the American flag is up every day. So, I mean, that's a little confusing to me. We can certainly honor it, but it's up there already. Also, anybody that has requested in the past flags to be flown presents the flags to us, right? The town doesn't go out there and purchase them, and usually we keep them in the office there. So any of these flags requests that we approve, as long as the people get them to us, we certainly can keep them if they don't want to take them back. Some do, but most of them leave them here. And then we just have to figure out the dates. If they coincide, sometimes there may be a conflict with another one, so we'd have to figure that one out too. But, you know, the ones like November 10th, the Marine Corps birthday, I think if you served or you had somebody in your family that served, these dates jump out at you. So I think they'll be met with, I think, some support here, solid support. But again, there's a lot here. You know, Space Force Day, I think we have to watch. My own personal opinion is we got to be careful about overdoing it, and UN Day, because you could have so many that it becomes a blur. And right now, we could all recite the dates that we put these flags up because everybody looks forward to them. And I certainly think the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, that'd be nice traditions, I think, for us to look forward to. Also, there was a request about the POW flag, and I believe, and Laura can correct me, the White House does fly that under the American flag every day, but the state capitol does not do it every day. But certainly, I think anything that has a military significance in town, whether it be Veterans Plaza Park on the Avenue or Moorlot Park, and I could even make an argument for here at Town Hall, since this is a center of government here in Greenwich, that the POW flag could fly underneath that American flag every day. I think that's a good thing. I would personally, I think that I would support that. But beyond that and those military, those other places that have military significance, I'd leave that up to my colleagues for a further discussion. But again, most of these are I think, are really good, but we do some of them already, and some of them I just don't know. I'd like to hear my thoughts of my colleagues, and also have people weigh in from the public. So I think this is not going to be, this may even be 2 or 3 or 4 read one, but certainly I think we're going to get a bunch of these approved. I just wanted to, it's got thrown out. He threw an awful lot at us at once. So, everything.
Yeah, my question is what flag? Because like you said, if it's the American flag, it's already being flown. So David, if you can just give us a little bit more specificity. I can never say that word. Can you give me or us more specifics? So on March 29th, what additional flag, would be flown? On Flag Day, what additional flag would be flown other than the American flag? That would be helpful.
And I can say now, I am absolutely supportive of our military and our veterans. My late father was a World War II Navy veteran and a Korean War Army Corps of Engineer veteran. So absolutely, we're very supportive. But I will echo that, to me, I don't want to just see a flag raised. I want to see something behind it that gives meaning. And so, my question would be sort of who owns this? Like, as I mentioned before, we don't just have flag raisings, we also have proclamations. And so is there a plan to have not just a flag being raised, but is there some kind of observance that goes along with it? That would be important to me.
Yeah, it's a good point. And like, who brings it to us? Who's going to be presenting? Not only just bringing us the flag, but who's going to be there, and helping us with, getting the word out there. And I think that, the Byron Vets or the American Legion 29, those are obviously good potential sponsors of these things. But there's a lot to work through here, but I think we're very excited about many of these. So I think Lauren had a question for you first, so I'll let you answer that.
Green light is mic on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Green go.
David Wold, answering your question, what date was it?
Not the dates. What specific flag are you requesting to be flown on the dates?
Okay, I have a POW flag here, which you all probably recognize, the black with the barbed wire and the soldier. That is the flag that is on federal buildings all over the country. all rest stops in New York State, et cetera, Massachusetts, whatever. When it comes to, as to Flag Day, for example, that is only represented by the American flag. There is no specific flag for that
So
day.
then that would be more of like what Janet's point was, a proclamation instead of a specific flag
Yeah.
raising, because the
You
flag is
remember
already there.
I brought this up in October before this law or this ordinance came into effect to raise this on Veterans Day, and you requested that I brought it forward in January when you went through a list, and that's why I made the list.
So
So,
if you could just be specific
mean,
then, on
all the-
November 11th, you would like the POW flag.
Yeah, ideally, the POW flag should be up every day.
Yeah, that got, every day it's underneath the American flag.
So then that's a different ask, and then nothing
Yeah.
specific on Veterans Day, because it's already going to have the American flag and the POW flag. So it's more of like a proclamation, just to be really clear.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
we're already doing a lot of this stuff. So the point is, what do you request? So Veterans Day, we have all these events, and we have there's a flag raising, there's all this stuff. So are you, on those particular days, are you requesting the proclamation, or are you just want to include it? I mean, we do it already, so that's the point. It gets a little blurry.
Okay, so let's back it up again. I gave one request. It was asked then to put it on a list. I assumed that list would be an yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, going down the list, not that you approve the whole list as one request.
Yeah.
But 1 out of 7, 5 out of 10, whatever it is. These are dates that I suggested. Most of them are each of the branches, the Armed Forces branches. Each one of them has their own flag, and I gladly provide those with partnership,
sure.
just like I did with the wreaths. So the only thing I'm very confused now, was there a first reading of the list?
So because there's a bunch here, and our main thing today was to approve the list that we already have, and that we talked about doing.
Last meeting.
Yeah, so that we got that done. So this here, there's so many questions here, right? Even though I think we're all very excited to put out our branches, right, to get that going. But you've heard some of the questions already, so this could even be 2 or 3 reads until we get,
We just need some additional information, and I'm happy to help you grid it out if that's helpful to say, on March 29th, Vietnam Veterans Day, we want the American flag and a specific Vietnam vet flag. I'm happy to help you document that. I think we just have to know what we're approving.
Yeah, I'm again confused because I presented this list in December. For the January meeting.
You keep saying, I understand that, but you're not listening.
But this is the first time I hear a question.
But I'm saying, this is why we have these
Yeah.
forums. This is going to be probably a 2 or 3 reader, because we just need more information on this before we do. Again, so November 10th, Marine Corps birthday, we know that, right? We could probably vote on that next time pretty easily. Navy, right? Our families served, so we're okay with, but there's some other questions here that, Lauren has just said she's willing to work with you offline so we know exactly what we're approving. Because again, on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, we already do these things. So what are we approving that we're not already doing now? So that's what I'm saying. It's confusing to us.
Okay, but then I suggest that us narrow the list down to
Sure.
which one are confusing.
Yeah.
And then we vote on the ones that are not confusing.
Okay.
So how about I respond to this email, I'll just grid it out and say, this is the missing piece that we
Yeah.
need some information
Because
on.
just 2 days ago, I got an amendment to the Norwegian flag, which has been going for 35 years now.
Well, that was just simply, I was a bit more specific on the calendar, because I was a bit confused with Mr. Wold over who had authorized the Norwegian National Day. I simply just made sure it says on there that it is now a town event, that we can do a flag raising for. It's on the slate you just approved. So that was no amendment to it. We just specified a little bit and then some confusion. So it's
Right.
on the list now at the date you told me. So
That's fine, Ken. So Lauren and I will now look at the list, and if there is anyone that is
Just give me a little
confusing, I will
time.
click.
Don't email me at like 11 o'clock.
No, but you have had the list for 2 months, so
It's not the only thing I do, David. It's
So
not the only thing I do.
let's say that we try to get this in order before the next Selectmen meeting.
Absolutely. You got my commitment on that.
And as a good gesture gift, I would hereby give you the POW flag.
Thank you.
For your file.
Thank you.
And you were also request, so we would also fly, I think, thank you, at Morlot Park, Veterans Plaza Park, which we still would love to do a rededication some point in the next year on the Avenue. So those would be places where this would be flying every day under the American flag.
Yeah, as you know, that flagpole belongs to Restoration Hardware, and that's why we got permission to raise the flag, the POW flag on Veterans Day.
Well,
So you would have to request.
I got to go back over that because we're working with them because the town owns most of that property.
Yeah.
And even though they're taking care of the landscaping, that they entered an agreement, they wanted to do that, but the town owns up to like, I think 15 feet in front of that, don't hold me to, so whether the flag is who's ever property, it's close, it's right on that line there, but we own most of that property, but we have a great relationship with them and the owner. And that's why we're trying to do some more things there to really spruce it up even more. And when we do that, the idea that I had was to try and do a rededication of Veterans Plaza Park, which most people don't seem to know. That was the name of it, but it was never got any exposure. So we'd love to take that opportunity to fix it up a little bit more and maybe put a light on the flag and on the obelisk and maybe do some other things. Talked about like a water feature or something there. That would be really nice. But also to take that time to rededicate it so people know that that's Veterans Plaza Park, which is a nice thing. It's a beautiful spot. And I think having this should be flying every day there.
Right, no,
Yeah, I agree.
I can give you the contact person there, because he was all over it.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
wanted to keep it, and I said, let's just do it Veterans Day, and then when this hopefully passes in town, then everybody's on the same
Yeah,
page.
no, I think your original point, this should be flying every day at those spots. So we should, we'll be able to vote on that soon. But I think some of these things are going to be layups, right? So that Lauren said, we work offline with you just to clarify 3 or 4 or 5 of these things, the questions on them. But the rest of them are pretty straightforward. So,
Okay, so
thank you.
I won't push you, but I will ask you.
All right.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Okay. Going on to new business, we only have 2 items there. It's a request from Aquarian.
Sorry to interject.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know, did you take a vote on the slate?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yes, we did. Thank you, Laura. I know, it was a while ago. The request from Aquarian Water Company for night work at the intersection of Bruce Park Avenue and Mason Street. Brian Murphy is here from Murphy Brothers, and this is a first read. Good morning, Brian.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. How you yourself?
Good, thank you.
You're on.
Is this on?
You're on, yeah.
Perfect.
So this is a first read, so just explain a little bit details when and, what do you think as far as the timing goes for this so the public that's watching can understand what we're going to be.
All right. There's a defective valve in the middle of the intersection at Bruce Park Avenue and Mason Street. And so we're going to dig a small hole, and we're going to dig down, repair it, remove that valve, discard it, and install 3 new valves at that location. And we would like to get started at like 7 p.m., shut the water main down for 9 p.m., and then have the hole backfilled by maybe 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's pretty quick.
And how long would this be as far as duration, days, weeks?
1 night.
1 day, okay.
One night. But you don't have a specific date?
Yeah.
We want to do it tonight.
Oh, tonight?
Oh.
Okay.
That's cool. That's a quick one. We haven't had one like that before.
Well, we didn't know we needed special approval.
Yeah.
We had gotten the highway permit,
Okay.
and they didn't, we had told them we were doing it at night, but the highway department gave us the permit, but the permit said that all work needed to be done during normal work hours. And so I didn't realize that, and we had notified all the customers that were going to be affected by it. And then I had read through the permit, and I called them up, and I said, wait a minute, it says here that we can't do work after normal work hours. And they said, yeah. I said, well, we talked about we're doing it at night. And, oh, no, we can't approve that. You have to go to the Board of Selectmen.
So Brian,
Okay.
so you already notified the people in the area?
Yes, they were
Okay, good,
notified.
all right, because that was my question, because it's time sensitive, and I get that.
Yeah.
Normally, we want to make sure that the people have been been notified, so you've done all that.
Yeah, the notices went out on Tuesday at 8 AM, and there's 28 customers affected. No critical, no restaurants, no businesses, no healthcare facilities, none of that stuff.
You're lucky doing it now. In a few weeks, the Bruce Park Grill's reopening. That could be a big problem.
We wouldn't want to affect that.
Right. So, I mean, the customers have been notified that this will be happening, but I guess the real question is, have people been notified that this will be, the public, that this is going to be happening at night? I guess that's the question I would have.
Yeah, so Janet, her point is that we normally also get a thing out to the public saying to avoid this area. We try to do that sometimes a few weeks in advance, but again, if this is time sensitive, it's one day and it's just a few hours. But again, normally we do try to give, you've taken care of one of the requirements, which is contacting the people, but there are people that use that area all the time, so they may get confused, that's why we try to give them a little bit of a
Right.
leeway.
Oh, we have the police officer there for traffic
Yeah.
control.
Yeah, no, I get it. But in the future, I guess if there's any projects with sewer and DPW, just see if you can get them to, work with you a little bit earlier so we can let people, just give them a little bit of a heads up. But
Yeah, I wasn't aware that we needed to come to you for this. but
Right.
Now that I am aware.
Post it on,
yeah, we'll post something online. We'll get something out there just to let people know.
And dare I say noise? Will there,
Well, it's only 3 hours, one night. Yeah, what is the,
Oh, we got to dig a hole. We can't really do that too quietly. We'll do the best we can for you.
better to do it now than July when the windows are open, so, yeah.
Good point.
Okay. There's a lot of little things we have to take into consideration, but.
I can see that.
Projects have to get done, obviously, but we'll get something out there today. Again, just for clarification, you're gonna start from 7 o'clock,
We're going to start working at 7 PM.
7 PM.
Weather going to affect your work tonight?
I hope not. We're going to shut down the water main at 9.
Water main shut down at 9.
Should have it back on by 11. And the hole backfilled by 1 AM.
Back on by 11. And then everything opened up at 1,
Yeah,
completed by 1. Okay.
God willing.
Okay, yeah. By 1 o'clock. Okay. All right, we'll get that out there.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Thank you. All right. Since it's time sensitive.
Lauren Raven, I motion that we approve the request from Aquarian Water Company for night work at the intersection of Bruce Park Avenue and Mason Street for tonight, January 25th, from 7 PM to 1 AM.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
Hesitantly.
Hesitantly.
I was waiting to see what you were going to say. All those in favor? Fred Camillo's a yes?
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thanks. Good luck, Brian. Okay, last up is Peter Schweinfurth, who's been waiting patiently for a presentation and discussion of the Energy Management Advisory Committee's 2023 annual reports. You've been sitting a while now. You got to stretch out.
You keep it nice and cold in here, so I got that going for us, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it
Peter
prepared for
Schweinfurth, Chair of the Board of Selectmen's Energy Management Advisory Committee. Thank you for having me today. I'll pick up on where Amy Siebert left off, which starts with the reduce, right? That's the whole point of the exercise here, is to use less. So anyway, let's talk about what I want to present today. So the annual report, first we had a little bit of an executive summary, all right, what are we doing? What are we, what are the big get-its? Then we have what I call MD&A, Management Discussion and Analysis. It's a look at how much did we consume, how much did it cost, what was our greenhouse gas emissions, and then, okay, so if this went up, why, right? So the variances and trying to understand, what's behind them. Then we have project reviews. We looked at the new buildings or the proposed buildings, which include Central Middle School, Old Greenwich School, Hamilton Ave, New Lebanon, and then we have general observations on what's going on at the Board of Ed. I should say the GPS. And then we talk about other projects, the Dorothy Hamill Skating Rink, which is coming up, which is a big opportunity. virtual net metering, solar PV, Power Smart campaign, and then we talked a little bit about the electric vehicle transition, specifically the one EV that we have in town here now, the the Hyundai Kona Electric, which is being used by the fleet department, it's being used by the parking lot. Well, I'm spacing on their name, the parking lot people. Parking services, yes, exactly. And then, of course, our EMAC Planning and Zoning Commission collaboration. You know, I'll just take a second to explain. Table 1 is total energy consumption. It's expressed in million MBTUs, right? So M is a Roman numeral standing for 1,000, and why do we use that archaic term in front of BTU? BTU stands for British Thermal Unit. That's part of the imperial system of weights and measures and distances. So think inches and feet and miles, as opposed to the metric system, which would use a K. Anyway, why do we use BTUs? Well, that's trying to put everything on an equal basis, right? So we're trying to say, okay, we're burning propane, we're burning heating oil, we're burning gasoline, we're burning natural gas. How do we take those fuels and convert them to the energy equivalent? The other side is kilowatt hours, which is electricity, which is energy. Fuel isn't energy until you light it, right? When you light it, then it creates energy. A BTU, just fun fact, BTU was developed forever ago as essentially the energy equivalent of one match. So the town burnt 272, essentially billion BTUs worth of energy last year. So that's 271 billion. That's a lot of candles to blow out, right? So anyway, I thought that would be amusing for you all. Total energy costs. All right, so the total energy costs that I come up with are essentially the total cost for that energy that we've been able to track. It's a bottoms-up analysis as opposed to a top-down analysis, which is what would be happening in this building, right? So my costs don't equate to what Roland Garros is going to tell you. And my costs actually are understated. I know they're understated because I can't capture everything. Some meters are offline and they are not reporting, and it just takes a while to catch up to it. Getting the heating oil data for buildings can take months, and it's always in arrears, right? None of that is automated. Propane, et cetera, the fleet fuels, none of that is automated, right? So that is difficult to capture. And then the greenhouse gas emissions are fairly easy to calculate once you know all the rest of that. If I can back up for a second, though, on the distinction between, my costs and what happens up here, I'll ask you a trick question. Who tracks energy consumption in town? I do. I'm the only person in town that tracks energy consumption, right? So when the requests go from the different departments, here's how much we spent. Here, it basically is like, here's our energy bills for the last year. We approve them, will you pay them, right? So there's nobody that's saying, oh, okay, well, how much did you use? Did you use more than you used last year? Did you use less than you did last year? Do you know what you're doing? Are you tracking it? Do you care? Right? There doesn't seem to be a lot of care in town because nobody is pushing it back down saying, can you reduce it this year because I don't want to spend that much money? Or, this year, natural gas prices, actually not this year, but the last fiscal year, natural gas prices spiked, so we're paying a whole lot more. So all of a sudden people are like, wow, that's a lot of money, and we didn't even use less, right? Or I should say it this way, we didn't use more.
Right.
We actually used a little bit less, but we're still paying a whole lot more. So there isn't anybody that's saying, can we do a better job besides EMAC, which is, I would say that's a little bit unfortunate. There's no management in town saying, what are we spending and why are we spending so much and what can we do better?
Could I
Sure, of course.
count on you
Okay.
to
Do that.
for the position I put in?
Yes, absolutely. It's
That's what should be somebody there not only tracking, but advocating and looking at other things that we qualify for. Because it's hard, I mean, I'm sorry, you are a volunteer and you've done so much here, but you have other obligations. And so that's why I think it's critical, this position will pay for itself.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of times over. So I think we're just going to have to really advocate as one, for the reasons that you're saying. You're spot on. So-
Right. So I want to call out, there is one individual in town, one town manager, who does track minutely the fuel that he purchases. Not so much that is consumed, because there's a distinction, right? That's Jay Domasek in the fleet department. He knows exactly. He's great. I call him in August, what were your numbers for last year? I get a nice spreadsheet from him, right? When I did this analysis, when I started doing this exercise 3 years ago with other departments, a lot of people said, why are you asking? What even do you need? Because we don't know what you're talking about, right? So getting the data and getting people to say, oh, nobody ever asked me that question before, right? So getting that information has been tedious, but now that it's in Energy Star Portfolio Manager, right, it mostly pulls in, right? But still, I discover new meters all the time. And it's in keeping track of it, you know, like the traffic lights and the street lights they're more than dozens, right? It numbers in the hundreds, right? So keeping track of all that is difficult, but if you don't keep track of that, then obviously you don't know, right? So anyway, so we, just on that fundamental point, there needs to be the managers, the department heads need to understand what they're spending and where they're spending it and why is it going up or why is it going down? And if it isn't going down, why not? And what can we do about it, right? So why don't we jump ahead? I mean, you know, here's the thing.
Can I ask you a quick question before
Sure.
you jump ahead on the two tables? Because I know that Eastern Greenwich Civic Center wasn't included. Do you have a sense of, because, you know, from 2022 to 2023, the minus, 72%.
Yeah.
If Eastern was on the grid?
It'd make about 1% difference.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Their energy cost is about 40 grand a year.
Thank you.
So if we want to reduce our energy consumption by 20 to 40%, then we have to make structural changes, right? And that's going to start with the buildings. I mean, it isn't behavior anymore. We've done all the LED replacements, right? And that was meaningful, but it's nowhere near 20%. It's certainly nowhere near 40%, right? So now we need to do different things. And it isn't going to be so much behavioral changes. I mean, we can add sensors, we can turn off the lights, we can turn the temperature up or down depending on the seasons to use a little bit less. You know, the behavioral changes are hard and everybody fights. No, it's too cold. No, it's too hot, right? You know how it goes when you're in the office, right? So anyway, so what we need is structural changes, and the best opportunities we have are sitting right in front of us. Central Middle School is going to be a new 120,000 square foot building, right? I think they've made a very poor choice to decide to go with the traditional system. I think not only are we not going to use less energy, but we're going to use more energy, and it's going to cost more. And the thing is with that building is it's going to be hopefully a well-designed, hopefully. No reason to believe that it won't be a well-designed building, but still we're locking in 100 years worth of, burning gas and spending a lot of money on heating and cooling that building, right? That's not going to be a Dan Watson problem. It's not going to be your problem. It's not even going to be our children's problem. It's going to be our great-grandchildren's problem. They'll be the ones in this room in the next century saying, all right, what do we do with the building now, right? Same with Old Granite School. I mean, we're renovating, it's a 1902 building. It was the Sound Beach School. Now it's getting renovated, hopefully, well, it's being renovated piecemeal. And I think everybody knows that and accepts it, right? And that's kind of a shame, right? It could be a more robust renovation because, again, this you know, it's already 121 years old. If we want it to last another 121 years, well, why don't we do a little better job so that it has some duration as opposed to something that we're going to be in 25 years saying, why didn't we do that then, right? So, you know, attacking the envelope of this building, I've seen the inside and the corridors where the only thing between you standing on the stairs and the outside is 3 inches of brick. There's nothing else. It is totally uninsulated. There certainly won't be any original windows in that building, but, you know, a lot of those windows are forever old. I mean, and that's where you get the drafts, that's where you get the energy losses, that's where you get the poor lighting. There, you know, would it cost money? Of course it would cost money, but it wouldn't, you know, it's not the difference between $40 and $60 million. It's the difference between $40 and $42 million probably, maybe $44 million. But you're going to get a return on that investment in terms of the energy saved, right? You're going to be able to reduce the size of the systems that need to go into that building because you don't have to overcool it and overheat it to overcome the deficiencies of the envelope. So, you know, Central Middle School, Old Greenwich School, you know, the Hamilton Avenue School, we're starting to dig into that. You know, it was a thoughtful design, but it's never been operated the way it should have been operated. You know, I like to joke that I have a new now, it's 9-month-old EV. It's from a new American company. But I could have perhaps, let's say my mom gave it to me, and it's the first car this company's ever made. I could have convinced myself, oh, you know, this car, whatever, you know, they actually can't go in reverse. They can only go forward, right? So if I never drove it in reverse and only drove it forward, I'd have a pretty poor driving experience. That's what happened in Hamilton Avenue. Somebody convinced themselves, even after it was designed, newly designed, somebody says, I know you put in a geothermal system, it's supposed to heat and cool, but we don't think it can actually heat, so we're gonna turn on our boilers, meant to be backups, and we're gonna heat the building that way instead of using the geothermal system. Well, the consequences is that after 15 years of doing that throughout, the well fields have overheated and now they can't cool in the summertime. So it's a fundamental flaw, and I really don't, again, that I forget his name now, but that director of facilities is no longer here. Nonetheless, you know, the situation hasn't changed, and people have not really been looking at this for 15 years until all of a sudden now they're looking at it, and now they're looking at it and saying, it didn't work, never worked, can't work, we got to just tear it out, which, whatever, there's a significant process failure in all of that. So anyway, our committee is going to lead the investigation and try to figure out, you know, what's the best way forward that's cost efficient, energy efficient, operationally efficient, you know, just makes common sense. The new lab, I think I mentioned when we met with Sabina, new lab has a solar system that apparently nobody really knows anything about, doesn't seem to be connected. This is a brand new building. This building does not perform well on an energy efficiency basis. And it isn't that it probably, I mean, TSKP is an excellent architect. I'm sure that it was well designed, but the execution has not been good. Dorothy Handel skating rink. You know, this is a perfect opportunity to use geothermal. Geothermal can heat and cool at the same time. And you might say, well, why would you want to heat and cool a skating rink at the same time? Well, it's fundamental. You've got to cool that ice all the time. You're pulling heat away from the ice even when it's, you know, the middle of the winter. All right, and that heat then is something that you have. It's an asset. That heat then can be recycled into the arena to keep people warm, right? Or into the locker rooms, or into the et cetera, right? So it is, you know, the Canadians have been putting these in. They're up to 7 times as energy efficient as a traditional system, right? And they save space, you know, it's because it's one system. It's not 2 different systems. Anyway, I'm hoping, nobody's asked us yet to be involved, but I'm hoping that somebody will say, hey, EMAC, can you help us think about this situation and weigh in? Solar PV, you saw some pictures, page 17. I found a graphic. The beautiful arched roofs at the Eastern Greenwich Civic Center are going to have solar panels that fit flush right on top, and apparently will be visible from the southbound, New Haven line. So that'll be kind of cool to check those out. So anyway, those should meaningfully reduce the energy consumption of that building. Now, they can only reduce the electricity consumption because it's still going to be heated with a gas boiler system. But we weren't involved, and anyway, I'm not saying that we would have done anything different. I think we would have, but again, I can't second guess that. PowerSmart is one of the initiatives that we're doing. PowerSmart is sort of a successor to Solar ICT. In this instance, it's combining solar panels, and this is all residential focused, solar panels plus battery backup. So if you have solar panels, you charge your batteries, and those can be used in emergencies. If there's a grid outage, the batteries will kick in and can cover you for a night or a day or who knows how long, depending on the size. Electric vehicles, as I mentioned, the Kona Electric, the drivers love them. DC Gray loves it. He wants more. They're much more efficient from fuel use or an energy use than the hybrids that they are replacing. And in terms of the maintenance, the only scheduled maintenance for these cars is tire rotation at 5,000 miles, right? So they're pretty simple to maintain. They probably would only need to do that, and these cars are driven 3,000 miles a year, right? And it isn't heavy-duty driving, right? So maybe every other year they come in for a tire rotation, and occasionally you're going to check the fluids. You check the tire pressure, but they're easy. They're easy to maintain. Jay's not going to have much to do with them, which is probably what he would like.
Sure.
Jay's also talked about a fleet conversion. He would like to convert more of his trucks to propane as opposed to liquid propane as opposed to diesel. Liquid propane is so much cheaper than diesel, and it has much better emissions profile. So I would encourage you to support him in, putting in some additional, supply depot inventories so that he can expand that fleet. Our collaboration with the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we have two new regulations. There's the regulation that requires an energy narrative, which is basically just saying, hey, here's our grid. Have you thought about these things? Are you doing energy modeling? Are you doing renewables? Do you have a targeted UI? And as much as anything is sort of meant to tell people, hey, we're looking at this, we're thinking about this. Will you bring an apple to the P&Z Commission with your building permit so that they'll look favorably on your application, right? We're just trying to educate them and to say, we're paying attention, and if you're not looking at this, then you should be. Right? We get even from one of the private schools recently here in town. They sent in an energy narrative saying, well, we're going to be below the 2016 ASHRAE, which probably doesn't mean anything to you, but anyway, it's part of it's one of the two energy standards that you can use that are under the new 2022 building code, Connecticut Building Code, right? They were referring to a code that was 2 generations ago, right? I mean, you would think that they don't even know what the current code is. So that's kind of embarrassing. And, so we call them out on those. We reply back, that's not the current code, so that's not the way to think about it. Can you, get with the program, please? It doesn't have any teeth, but it's kind of a name and shame. It's kind of like, okay, please do better, try again. We also include recommendations. we include some generic recommendations just for town processes, mostly focused at GPS. And then we have specific ed spec recommendations. I mean, that's really where it starts, right? The OGS building committee is hamstrung because the ed specs don't say anything about the envelopes. The envelope are the windows, right? And Jen Benchvenga would love some new windows, right? Everybody in that building would, right? But it wasn't part of the ed specs, right? They were dumbed down to basically achieve the most for the least. So, it's, anyway, had the ed specs said, look, we want you to look at the whole thing and be energy conscious and look at the envelope and, make it airtight and put in nice windows and improve the lighting for the kids and for the, for a variety of reasons, then the building committee would be directed to do that. That'd be their job, that'd be their mandate, but it isn't their mandate, so they don't, their hands are tied. So anyway, so there are specific recommendations here for the Board of Ed to consider, for future ed specs. I hope that they will, because that's really where it starts, right? If you've got good ed specs, then you can give it to a building committee and they can execute. If the building committee is saying, well, you didn't ask us to do this, but you should have, because now is the time to do it, right? So anyway, but there are obviously politics involved in all that, and it becomes, a whole nother, goes into a whole nother world. So anyway, so that's all I've got to say. But happy to take any questions, any additional questions that anybody has.
Well, just one quick one. First of all, thank you for all the work you put into this. Again, it gets overwhelming, and hopefully we can convince the Finance Board that this position is really needed, because this will tie a lot of this stuff together. You mentioned incentivizing innovation in your recommendations.
Yep.
Which I agree with, but for facilities that are doing a good job, recognition is one thing, but when you say reward system, what does that look like? Do other municipalities do that? What would that look like as far as rewarding?
It's more of a, take the HAMAB geothermal system, right? They didn't have any incentive. Somebody at some point just said, look, it won't heat the building, so we're not gonna use it, right? There was no incentive for them to see if it would actually work, right? Because they knew they could turn on the boilers and heat the building, right? So there was no downside to do that. The downside was, of course, that they basically broke the geothermal system. They overheated the wells, but they sort of viewed that as, well, that's not on me. Whatever. It doesn't work, so I didn't use it, right? And so that director is gone. And the new director now is saying the same thing. It doesn't work, it was misdesigned, it never worked, it's a failure, it wasn't my problem, I didn't do it, right? Just tear it out and give me a new system, right? That's the opposite of and it isn't even risk-taking. It's just, it's such an extreme degree of risk aversion that you end up failing both ways, right? So that's the kind of innovation that I'm talking about. It's simply, okay, well, we have a solar system on the new lab building. Hey, that's cool. Let's make sure that it works. Let's monitor it. Let's think about how it's doing. Let's think about the tree that's blocking the panels in the summertime, right? I mean, but nobody has that attitude. Nobody, that's my point about there's a lack of ownership. Nobody's like, well, this is my building, and I want it to sing and shine, right? Now, again, I do say that they seem to be woefully understaffed, right? And so if you could add 1 or 2 positions, again, those positions would pay for themselves, right? But there's an unfortunate attitude in other committees, town committees, that it's like, well, if they spend less, then I'm just going to take it back and give back to taxpayers. They don't get to reinvest that money, right? You think about, if Greenwich High School spends over $100,000 a month to heat and cool that building, right? Think about how many teachers you could, if you cut that in half, additional teacher resources or coaches or whomever, right? It's real money, and that's add up. And again, so reducing our energy consumption and energy cost by 20 to 40%, it's important. And it also increases resilience, right? If CMS were a net zero building and had battery backup in addition to the solar panels, they could go a couple of days in an outage and not really care. Gas could go up to $10 a CCF and they wouldn't care because they don't burn any, right? So anyway.
Yeah, I was struck by the comment in the summary or final thoughts, the renter mentality versus the owner mentality. And I know you and I have spoke about, having teeth and having somebody sort of help shepherd these ideas through. So very supportive of the additional headcount, Fred, because we've got Sustainability Committee, we've got Conservation Commission, we've got, EMAC, so a bunch of, sort of legs in the stool that are working towards very similar, outcomes and kind of pulling it all together and making sure that we have the teeth and have sort of the expectations. I know that there's also the conversation about how do we not think of GPS as this separate entity from the town of Greenwich, pool some of our, collective resources so that we can, 1 + 1 could equal 3 maybe, instead of just hiring more people in these sort of siloed functions. That's my way of thinking. And again, I do want to thank you and the whole committee for putting this all together. And please put your nomination
back
in for snack. I'm going to.
Oh, my nomination?
Yes.
I didn't know I needed to do that.
Yes, your term expired, and we very much would like to see you re-up. So I'm making myself a snack plug.
I'll trade you.
Thank
If
you.
you hire an additional energy manager, then I'm all in.
I'm all in. If I only had that authority, we're all in the same boat advocating, but I think we all agree. It's like a business. You have to spend money to make money. You just want to do it efficiently and make sure there's measuring tools. And I think this lends itself to that. And that's what I hope we can convey to our finance board, that we're not just throwing things out there because they look good or it's a worthy goal. It's actually could pay for itself. It should pay for itself. And to your point, all this good work will never reach its full potential unless we get somebody really that's full-time helping, just like in other areas in town government. Thank God we have our volunteer force that brings us to this point, but now we're ready. We're ready for somebody there full-time.
Good, terrific. All right, thank you.
I just want to echo my colleagues and say thank you so much. I think you did elaborate, Fred's question about what you mean by incentivize. I'm going to go back to my Kennedy School days and, my wonkish ways and say what we really need to do is align interests. I mean, we have a very decentralized town government, and we just need to make sure that everybody has a reason to care for what our goals are. I'll point out that, and I think you're the one who told me that as mind-blowing as these numbers are, the town is only responsible for 5% of our energy usage. So that means whatever we do as a town to serve as a role model, that could have a huge influence on how much energy is used in the Greenwich community overall. And to that point, and I'm going to look ahead to the climate action plan, and I'm sure that the climate action plan is going to be looking at such things, but PACE, and you're going to have to tell me what the acronym stands for.
People's Action for Clean Energy.
We have a lot of data at our fingertips that we could use for a greenhouse gas inventory, and we could use that on our KPIs. That I do know what it stands for, key performance indicators. Thank you very much, Lauren. But yeah, that's something that we could be tracking and we should be tracking. You highlighted, Eastern Greenwich Civic Center and the solar panels that will be shortly going up. That is very exciting. You mentioned fleet a number of times, and I think when we talk about, like how many cars we would like to convert, I'm not sure that our community realizes we have a town fleet of over 300 vehicles. So this potentially is a huge number. And then finally, on the related EV charging stations, we have one in Town Hall now. But I think what would be really helpful would be a vision statement, because the report points out that residents now, there's 2,000 EVs in town, which is about 5% of privately held cars. We know that that number is going to go up dramatically in the next decade or so. Yes, fingers crossed. But we do. We know that our residents love new cars. They love cars. And, we're always looking for the next best thing. So the real question is, if for the moment, most residents are charging in their own homes, but we know that not every home would be suitable, then the real question is, what's the need? What would be the appropriate role for the town to take in providing EV charging stations? And then, if we could articulate that in a vision, specifically come up with a plan, like how many, where, and what kind, and who would manage them. I think that would be the next step. Anyway, enough from me. Thank you so much.
All right.
And again, not to put anybody in our audience on the spot, but I do see some who I think have come because of this report. So I leave it to you to recognize.
Thank you.
The public.
Oh, somebody wants to speak? Okay. Well, first of all, Peter, I just want to, again, thank you as we're wrapping it up. Thank you for this, and we'll certainly go forward and hopefully get some help with this as far as aligning goals so that there's continuity across departments and agencies and things like that. But I think it all starts with tying up a pay position, tying this all together and helping do that. So thank you very much.
All right, good. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay, Myra?
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. A team of us. Thank you. My name is Myra Clockenbrink, and a team of us early this last year organized to follow the CMS Building Committee process. And Julie helped to organize a webinar to what other schools in Connecticut are doing. Up in Mansfield, they've put in Net Zero School. And I believe Peter also had a webinar for the public. And there proceeded a learning curve that we all went on to understand these systems, because we saw their value to the town in terms of saving money and to sustainability. And it will not surprise you that we were very disappointed to learn that geothermal HVAC was not selected for this brand-new middle school. And I go into this just so you could see the process from our point of view watching it. And we felt that this was a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the committee to take the town into the 21st century and provide a template for the energy systems of our town buildings and schools. And when the committee began the process, they made the significant decision to engage an architect that could provide a net zero or a net zero ready building. They paid SLAM Collaborative to do this. But in following the process, this decision was not prioritized or integrated into the decision-making. I'm not a construction manager, but I have read the widely available literature on creating a net zero building, and it is clear that factors such as what Peter was referring to, the EUI and carbon emissions targets, needed to be determined needed to be determined very early on. And it was concerning that none of these target conversations took place in the committee. In November, very late in the process, we brought a professional in to educate the committee about the federal cash incentives available for a geothermal system, a minimum of 50% of the cost in a federal direct pay program. That is money in deciding not to go with geothermal that is going to be left on the table in this project. It was clear the committee was unaware and uneducated about these incentives, and not 1 cent of them will be made available for the selected gas-fired system. In an earlier forum, the committee stated that in determining whether to build geothermal HVAC, they would be guided by cost and energy efficiency. But in our experience, there was very little appetite for geothermal in spite of strong recommendations by the professionals they have engaged, which geothermal was, with the federal incentives, cheaper and 200 to 400% more energy efficient. So this will be a beautiful building and a contribution to our community, but it will come at a cost to our operating budgets, and even more significantly, in the many thousands of tons of greenhouse gases it will emit over its lifetime. We're not measuring, as Peter said, our greenhouse gas emissions, but there will come a time when we have to. It will be required by law. Already, other towns, cities are paying fees for non-compliance, and it's by the metric ton, and it could be significant. And I predict, what is it today, January 25th, 2024, that we will have to take out, in the end, that gas-fired system from the Central Middle School and replace it with renewable energy. So while this building is being built for future students, I maintain that it is not being built for those children's future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. Okay, is there a motion to, do we have another, we have, Dave, can we make, yeah, you have a, yeah, Julie, and then, because we're trying, we have another meeting and we're trying to.
I know, now I'm realizing, again, I'm not getting lunch.
Please, what is this about, Dave?
This subject.
Okay, okay.
I wasn't aware of this subject before the meeting, but I thought it was very interesting that one item that I was going to bring up that I talked to Ken about at the last Board of Parks and Rec, where over the last 3 years I have introduced an artificial temporary rink at Dorothy Hamill. And I understand Dorothy Hamill rink is one of the biggest energy consumers. And even just a week ago, I was informed that the town is planning to have 365-day rink instead of just a seasonal rink. So geothermal heating or cooling, whatever you will call it,
Yeah,
should be looked into before you dig up the baseball field and move the buildings around. And I just bring your attention back to what I mentioned to Ken, that
Yeah.
my introduction of an artificial temporary rink, which would have zero energy consumption, was introduced in a very disrespectful way.
Okay, Dave, we're not going off topic again
No,
with this.
no, I'm
Okay,
just saying
But thank you for your
we should look at it for the rink.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw Julie had her hand up there. Julie, did you want to say a couple words?
And I'll make it fast. Julie Deschamps again. Before commenting on EMAC's annual report, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for your support of the Sustainability and Climate Resiliency Plan at the last meeting. This project, along with EMAC's report, are the beacons to a healthier, more resilient, and sustainable future for Greenwich residents. To make the climate action plan a reality, I urge you to hire a professional outside consultant dedicated solely to develop the CAP and create a working group as recommended in the report. Thank you to Peter and the contributing members of EMAC for their hard work on the document, the EMAC's annual report. As you heard loud and clear from Peter, reducing town energy usage is critical, and much more needs to be done to cut energy costs, lower greenhouse gas emissions. I hope this report will be a wake-up call to Greenwich's elected officials and stakeholders, a must-read, especially for the Board of Education and Greenwich Public Schools. Public school administrators. Our schools are responsible for nearly half of energy use, energy costs, and carbon footprint of our town. We need to go way beyond LED lighting and shift away from expensive and polluting fossil fuel-driven systems like HVAC and transportation to clean, renewable energy technology that saves money. As a taxpayer, I'm very concerned how our historical investments in solar and geothermal in the schools have been squandered by mismanagement. For example, solar at Glenville, Greenwich High, New Lebanon, and geothermal at Ham Ave. What's the least common denominator? Now, these failures are used as excuses not to transition our schools to renewables. At CMS, we lost an enormous opportunity to save money in first costs and life cycle expenses, energy use, and to cut energy use and carbon emissions and promote student health and learning. When the building committee chose gas-fired HVAC over geothermal, we need to transition our existing town buildings to renewables and build new with clean technology, including the ice rink. As recommended in the report, I encourage you to bring on a dedicated energy specialist. This is a big job, to work in coordination with EMAC to advise and oversee these projects, track and monitor use, and ensure our community is moving in the right direction to fulfill the goal of 20 to 40% energy reduction. Thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just one quick clarification. Again, the climate report asked for a consultant. That was not going to get passed, and we knew that. But I think we went one bit better than that, one step better than that in the budget by getting somebody permanently rather than hiring somebody for a year. So rather than put that in there and see it get cut, I think we have a better case for somebody going forward, more sustainable every year in and year out being there. And we can argue, I think, a little bit more effectively for that position for the reasons that you stated and Peter, because that other one was just going to get cut, unfortunately. So we knew where that was going. So I think this is a much better option, and I think it gives us a little bit more firepower when advocating for it. I hope that we get people out there to support that too. So thank you so much. Before we go, I have to make one announcement. Sam Romeo from Greenwich Communities had asked me to announce that he'd like to do a forum on the for the proposal over on Strickland Road, because I know some people are emailing me and they're confused about it, and whatever the community, he's like ready to walk away from it. He said if there's opposition, but he would like people to understand what they're trying to do. So I want to get that out there and send out something between January 31st and February 7th. He'd like to do a public forum, maybe at Town Hall, just to answer questions on what they're trying to do and how we're trying to get to that 10% affordable number to get the state to off our backs with the mandate so that developers can't circumvent local zoning. So it'll be a worthwhile thing to attend. Whether you're for that particular project or not, it may be, I think, very educational for people, because I'm meeting with a friend Saturday who really doesn't understand 830G, and most people don't. Why would they? So
100 times you got to read it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's something so we'll get that out there to people. Just want to let people know that's coming.
We should mention it to the Coscob Neighborhood Association and District 8 RTM.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. I'll write that down. Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, is there a motion to adjourn?
No, we have not nominations?
No nominations,
No nominations.
no nominations, no nominations.
Casca, so, okay.
So moved to adjourn.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Don.